BaconBit. Look at my Ram truck.
Zack, you'll be happy to know that I paid attention to the cars that were in. Oh, by the way, we're doing.
You know what brands of cars are?
We're doing a BaconBit review of Twisters.
Yeah,
and this is going. The first part's going to be spoiler free. The last part will be spoiler full, and we'll let you know what's going to happen. But Zack, I paid attention to the cars and Twisters. And at the very beginning, they have I don't know the models, but I do know it's a Toyota being followed by a Ford. The two cars are driving together. And I was like, oh, this is not a Ram commercial anymore.
Probably an F-350.
But then the rest of the movie, when they flash forward 5 years, is all Rams.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. No, not the bad guys and a bunch of Suburbans. No? Okay.
Yeah. No, it's all trucks, right?
I think so.
And that's all I care about. Thanks. Good night. Good night.
Yes. Kent and I were able to go to see this movie.
Yes.
And Zack is going to see it very soon. So Zack's going to be leaving before we get to spoilers. So that's when you'll know we're going to start spoiling.
We're going to spend about 10 minutes talking about the movie, talking about our thoughts, really basically. And then, Zack, you're going to leave.
I am, because Honey and I are going on a date to see Twisters.
Hey, Zack, spoiler alert. There are tornadoes. Plural.
What? Is that why there's an S?
Actually, yeah. Kind of like in the first one, Sigourney Weaver faces off against one tornado. And in the sequel, it's multiple. Sorry,
get away from her in a ditch, because that's where you hide from tornadoes, within a ditch.
I do love that in the there was a poster that came out for this movie, and everyone's like, "Whoa, why are they looking at this? Why are they looking toward the camera if there's a Twister behind them?" Because there's another one. There's two.
Yeah, there's multiple two
Twisters.
Yeah. By the way, that poster image never happens in the movie.
Just released this week. Can you want to give the details about this movie?
Yeah, a retired tornado chaser and meteorologist is persuaded to return to Oklahoma to work with a new team and new technologies.
Yes, and this stars Daisy Edgar-Jones.
Yeah.
And Glen Powell.
Sorry, you mean Hollywood corporate darling Glen Powell?
You mean Hollywood plant?
We're gonna force him into every movie.
Here's the confession. The movie starts. I know who's in this movie. I've seen the posters. It starts up and they say his character's name, and my brain went, "Wait, what's his real name?" And the whole movie I kept being like, "Is it Tyler?"
No, I always get Glenn,
Chad?
And then I'm like, Glenn what?
I can't remember his name.
Glenn Howerton what is his name?
Hangman. And Hangman from Top Gun Maverick.
It took me a while to realize that Anthony Ramos was $96,000
in the Heights.
Inside jokes on Bacon Cell.
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, and then it has a bunch of other people in as well. But those are the main players there.
Yeah. So this is we can say a sequel, but don't worry about it.
It is not a sequel.
Big question. I mean, do I need to have seen the first one?
No, absolutely not.
They reference the technology from the first movie, and that's it.
Whose son is Glen Powell?
We can't talk about that. So
the cow.
I don't know his parentage. I've not looked it up on Family Tree. But this movie you don't need to have seen the original Twister, which came out in 1996. You don't need to have seen it.
How weird that we're getting some random sequel. Do you think it's because people love now Twister, or do you think it's like a return to disaster movies? Like we needed another like returning genre of summer movie.
Yeah,
disaster movies.
Superheroes are dead. Can we do disaster movies?
A disaster movie playing off nostalgia, right? Because the reason I'm going to go see this movie is because I love Twister. I think it's super fun. It stars which Bill
Paxton,
and
Helen Hunt.
Yeah, fantastic movie. There's
Carrie Ills.
Great cast. And it's a fun movie. I quote it all the time. So I'm really excited for this movie. I think it's a good time for a movie like this to come out.
Can I manage your expectations just a little bit?
Well, I mean, of course.
Just in this way, Zach. There is no I gotta go, we got cows moment.
Well,
I'm sorry.
There's no way to expect that.
Sounds like you're just starting us off. Do you want to go for it, Joel?
Well, no, I was waiting for some sort of humorous moment like that.
Movies are too serious these days.
They are. And this one is. So
I don't expect it to be fun. So in that way.
I will say this, Zach. I thought it was enjoyable.
Good.
This was not a movie that I think this was on my least anticipated list, if I remember correctly.
I feel like it was like an honorable mention for most.
It may have been.
Okay.
I can't remember. I'll have to go look it up again. But when this started up, I was kind of like, all right, let's see what you got. You're not going to be the original Twister, and it's not. This is not the original Twister. It's not as fun as the original Twister, but it is the almost exact same story, it feels like.
Sure.
This is very predictable. Like you see a character, you're like, oh, I guess that this is going to happen to them, and it does. But it's also kind of comforting in that way. It's like a rom-com, but for disaster movies. like a Hallmark movie where you're like, I know where this is going. It's still enjoyable.
Like she's the city girl and he's the guy that he's a YouTuber. Glen Powell is a meteorologist YouTuber.
Gross.
Which he's the Wrangler. Is that what they call him? The tornado Wrangler.
Yeah. Yeah.
And hopefully they fall in love.
And so as I was watching this movie and knowing where it was going, there was a couple parts I rolled my eyes at. There were, however, a couple moments that were exciting. I won't say surprising. I'll say exciting.
There we go.
With tornadoes?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I also was kind of amused, might be the word, that the visual effects technology since 1996 has not gotten exponentially better.
Well, they do so well.
I haven't seen Twister, the original, in a long time. How does it look?
Still good.
Is it actually good?
I watched Twister in the past year, I believe, and it still was entertaining. And the visual effects,
because
with the exception of CG cows, look pretty good.
I was waiting for the tornadoes in this movie to kind of be like terrifying and in your face, and a lot of times they're a bit obscured.
Yes,
and you're like in the midst of it, and you're like, I don't know what's happening. Kind of like, honestly, reality maybe.
Yeah, that's what I think they're going for.
But as a viewer, I wanted to feel the fear, rather than be like, oh, something just flew right in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Also, I will say that there weren't a lot of stakes because since you know where it's going, since you can kind of get a vibe of who's going to survive and who's not fairly quickly, there's not a lot of suspense in that regard. Still exciting, not suspenseful.
Yeah.
Definitely some eye-rolling moments where I kind of went, all right, you're going to go
Are we going to talk about it in spoilers?
Maybe.
Okay.
But I do feel like this was enjoyable. And so I'm not going to hate on this movie because I think I'm going to give it about 3 stars. This is one where I kept leaning whether I would liked it or not, and it was wavering there for a bit. For a while there, I was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna like this at all." But then it kind of picked up at a point and went, "Yeah, you know what? Enjoyed that." Also, there was a moment I thought for sure there was gonna be a cameo, but there was not. So I'm kind of disappointed by that. The problem with this movie, and I'll say this, is that in the first movie, in Twister, you get kind of your team of heroes, and they kind of all have their different personalities, but there's I do feel like they have that same problem in this movie that they did in that movie where there's too many characters to really care about them individually.
Sure.
They're the team. They each have a line or two, and that's all they get.
And there's like some corrupt people that you're like, oh, I don't want them to die, but I want them to win and get to the tornado first.
Yeah.
Right?
But I do also feel like this has many of the issues the first movie had, but with less likability
and punchy dialogue.
Yeah,
I think that's what it was missing.
Needed more.
Yeah,
because they kind of played safe there.
Right.
And my parents' guide version of this, I think it is PG-13 maybe, but it's a mild PG-13. It's there's
more peril than anything.
Yeah, more peril. There's some S words and
and people flying away in tornadoes, which is kind of creepy looking.
Yeah. I don't want to live in Oklahoma anymore.
No, did you before?
No, never. But
so compared to like Jonathan Kent in Man of Steel.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah.
Don't.
Okay. So that's my review. 3 stars. As good as that. I enjoyed it. You know what? This is a summer movie you can watch and you're going to be like, oh, that was fun, and then move on to whatever. It's not going to have a long lasting ability like Twister, but I think Twisters is worth.
Do you think when we saw Twister that we loved it, or do you think we went, hey, that's a cool summer movie that I'm going to remember 30 some odd years from now?
It made an impression on me. Like specific parts I remember seeing the first time being like, whoa.
Okay.
I think it was a movie theater experience. And also, I think I've said it before on Bacon Sale, it was a test of a lot of people's new fancy home surround sound system and big screen TVs.
Oh, yeah. Good call.
That's why that was fun.
Yeah. This just feels like a kind of like a good filler popcorn summer movie. Yep. There's nothing notable about it. It's almost entirely forgettable. But when you're watching it, you're going, hey, that's cool. Show me another tornado.
Yeah.
Because it delivers. The pacing here in this movie is near perfect. And I don't mean like with laughs or levity. I mean with bringing the scares.
Sure.
Because, you
didn't feel it was a little overlong.
So I didn't like...
The song's called Everlong?
Yeah. After the opening, there is probably, and once again, the Showtime Showdown thing to do, 25 minutes where she is paired with Anthony Ramos, where I was bored to tears. But then when she finally pairs with like the ne'er-do-well with a heart of gold, Glen Powell, I was like, I'm in. I like their chemistry.
He is oddly charismatic.
In every movie he's in, I'm like, I do like you. You've won me over.
Yeah.
Daisy Edgar-Jones, she's kind of playing this interesting role where she kind of starts out really like bubbly and innocent, and then she's tortured. And I thought she was maybe like being a little too serious for the role. But at the same time, she's a good actress, and Glen Powell is good, and they are good together. And there's so many tornadoes in this movie. It's literally like every day, let's go see a new tornado. And I'm like, I'm in. Show me a new tornado. Almost die in every single one of them.
Nice.
Right? And so for like an action summer movie, I'm like, yeah, that delivers what I came to see. But yeah, like I didn't laugh out loud. At one point I went, But there were some people in the crowd that were guffawing.
Yes, very, very loudly laughing. And I did laugh a couple of times, but maybe not the things they wanted me to laugh at. It was just like a line of dialogue was delivered poorly or poorly written. So, yeah.
How did you feel about David Corenswet, the new Superman?
Who was he?
He was the corporate stooge guy that was the passenger guy with Anthony Ramos.
Yeah. I didn't even notice him or care.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to be saying that when you see James Gunn's Superman.
Yeah. The acting wasn't super good. I'll just say that. But he was kind of playing like a stuck-up guy anyways.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's the role. This is really the same plot with the same ragtag group of characters that are chasing the storms. Granted,
without the divorce.
They change the direction.
No divorce.
And they make it like a new relationship. Okay. So they maybe start like the characters on a different sort of journey, but at the same time, like it just didn't have like the I think even the fear or the whimsy of the first one. There was just some charm to that first movie.
I feel like the first Twister movie.
Yeah.
The divorce thing, you brought that up. That was that extra element of like, hey, there's a little bit of suspense here, like relationship suspense.
Such a cheesy 90s plot.
Yeah, totally.
Hey, you got to sign these papers. No, I don't. I got to chase this tornado.
Yep. Tragedy brings us together.
Now let's kiss.
But no thanks, Zack.
I was okay with the... I was okay with the Hallmark moments of this movie, though.
Yeah, it was fine.
I thought like it was very lighthearted, and I was like, I'd like to see that more. Granted, it's still a big budget movie, but yeah, I think I wanted to see more special effects. I think I want to be a little bit more bombastic.
Yeah.
That bombastic. Said, I was thinking like, is it a C+ movie? No, it's a B- movie. Like it's it's like a crowd pleaser. But it's still kind of a mad, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I didn't hate seeing it.
Neither.
But I don't know if I'd add it to my collection.
I kind of already forgotten about it.
What movie?
Well played. So Zack?
I remember Zack making a pass at me a little bit ago. And
yeah. Are you still thinking about it?
Me off my game.
Yeah.
Kiss him.
So Zack, get out of here.
All right.
Yeah.
Twist and shout.
Spoiler now. Spoiler.
No. Spoiler. Not even a single mention to twist and shout.
I just said it. I just barely said it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Spoilers. All right. We are now going to spoil. Bye, Zack. We are now going to spoil Twisters, which... a
lot of plot twists in this one? Plot twisters?
Yeah. Man, I got to write that down.
Yeah, write that down. That's cute. Okay, so the story starts out. And I'm glad it started here because like it needed to start with some tension.
Yes.
And you have this like really young team, and honestly, kind of one of the weaker points of the movie for me.
What was up with that?
Yeah. They were like, and this sounds derogatory, and I don't mean it to, but like they purposely made them very juvenile Gen Zers.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're going to go chase a tornado and fight it.
I kept wondering, are they in high school?
That's
are
what
they in junior high?
That's what they were going for.
Like, there was high school?
I don't know.
If they were in high school, where did they get all that equipment?
I think she was in college. The lead actress was in college, or maybe just barely because she was working on this assignment.
Yeah.
But then they talk about her like elementary school project.
It was weird.
But like everyone there is like, we're going to go kick this tornado's butt. And I'm like, no, this is kind of serious. Like I know that people do this as a hobby, but take it seriously. And of course, things go poorly and nearly all of them die.
That was the shocking thing for me is I thought, okay, that one kid got blown away.
Yeah.
That's pretty sad for them.
And but you saw the boyfriend dying a mile away, right?
Well, when it got... but that's the thing is, as it got closer, essentially I started guessing it like a minute or two before they showed it. Because it was like, oh, that kid died. That was kind of shocking, but I knew someone was going to die. And then the other girl went, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then when she got on there with the guy, I'm like, oh, okay, they're not going to make this.
It's really a problem with trailers because I only saw Daisy Edgar-Jones and Anthony Ramos, and they showed them the original team. I'm like, oh, everyone else is going to die because I only saw those two in the trailer.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So I wish I hadn't seen it.
That's why I only watched one trailer.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
So then flash forward 5 years and she's traumatized.
Yeah.
And so she's traumatized by this horrible experience she had with tornadoes. So then she works with
like the weather service.
Tornadoes.
Yeah, she works far
away in New York, but she's still monitoring tornadoes.
Yeah.
And I was like, that doesn't seem like you're too traumatized.
Sure.
Okay.
But then she gets tasked by Anthony Ramos comes back into her life, right? And he says, hey, I've been working for the military. The backstory was so dumb, by the way. But he goes, hey, I've been working for the military, and we have a really good tracking device. And by the way, the device... Now, tell me if you understand what they're trying to do in this movie, other than like
they're trying to monitor tornadoes.
Yeah. Where Dorothy monitored tornadoes.
Yeah, she is trying to stop tornadoes.
Put a compound.
Collapse them themselves by putting up some sort of what does she call it? It's the stuff in diapers.
Yes. But in order to do that, she needs to place the trailer with the chemicals in front of every tornado she's about to fight.
Right.
And it just felt a bit pointless, but she's trying to stop destruction of cities.
But I thought her quest was a little better than Anthony Ramos's of, here's what we need to do.
Okay, what's his quest?
He says
this is explained in the middle of the movie, by the way.
He says we put these monitors around. We have to put one on one side, one on the other side, one in the rear, and then one right in front. Or no, it's just a three. It's just a three.
Yeah, like a triangular view.
To which I said, don't tornadoes move? Mm-hmm. Like, if you put one to the side, how long do you got before it's not to the side anymore? Like... And then he's like, we have to get it front within 300 meters or whatever he says.
Yeah. He says,
like, it's going to run over.
Don't you want to track this better? Because they were using Dorothy from the first movie. Don't you want to track this better? She's like, no, but yes. And so she helps him. And it's kind of like a corporate play. Yeah. And then they meet the ragtag group of Glen Powell. I don't even remember his name in the movie.
Tyler
Durden or something like that, right?
It's not Tyler Durden.
But he's like the Oklahoma Maverick, basically.
Yeah. Tyler Owens. There it is.
Okay. So... they're like the opposing ones that they're always kind of racing to get to the tornado first. And this guy, Tyler Owens, is having a good time. He throws his truck right into tornadoes, launches fireworks. That's kind of his thing.
He's a YouTuber who's doing that. And at the beginning, they portray him as they're the bad guys.
Yeah.
This ragtag group of idiots is the bad guys.
But really, it's the other way around.
Oh, she's working for corporate.
Yeah.
I did want to say this first. I'm kind of disappointed in the way tornado tracking technology has progressed since the 30 years ago.
Sure.
Because they're like, in the first movie, they're like, we want to get these things up and so we can understand how a tornado works. And then this movie, they're like, we want to put these three things around it so we can understand how a tornado works.
Yeah.
And I'm like, have you not learned anything in the past 30 years?
Yeah.
So I liked her plot better of trying to make them collapse.
It still seems like impractical because every time you put the stuff in front of a tornado, someone dies or almost dies or a city is destroyed.
Well, they just need to put it farther away.
Is that right? You could predict it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That was the other thing about the movie too. So the first movie, having watched it again recently, Bill Paxton has that thing where they're like, yeah, the science tells me this, but my gut tells me something different.
Right. Mm-hmm.
This movie does that exact same thing.
Right.
The whole movie is like science, science, science. No, but gut. Let's try gut. Gut works.
Every time.
Over and over and over again.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't have, I don't know. I don't think Daisy Edgar-Jones, is that her name? Yes, her name. Has the same fun with it that Bill Paxton did.
Right.
And I don't think Anthony Ramos or even Glen Powell are as fun as Helen Hunt in that regard.
Yeah. I like them both. I like them together.
Yeah.
You just have to remove them from these captivating stars. And I think to judge the movie, you shouldn't think about Bill Paxton or Helen Hunt.
No, and it has nothing to do with them. And in fact, there was a part where Daisy Edgar-Jones finally goes to visit her mom.
I like that we say her three names like she's a serial killer. Okay.
But she finally goes to visit her mom in Oklahoma, which she hasn't seen for 5 years, ever since the accident. And I went, are they going to drop a Helen Hunt cameo here? Because to me, that would have been like
a perfect moment. Honestly,
tie in.
They were probably trying to.
They probably were. And so they got Mara Tierney. Mm-hmm. Mara Tierney.
Yep.
Mara Tierney.
Yeah, it's good to see her.
I didn't recognize her at first, and all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, I know you."
Right?
Yeah, Mara Tierney.
Which I honestly thought when she's like saying hi to her mom, and her mom's like, "Are you going to be back?" And she's like, "I'll be back before I go back to New York." I'm like, "Oh, the tornado's going to hit her mom's house for sure."
So, but it didn't.
Never went there.
No, never went there.
So okay, what was the corporate plan?
So I was talking to my wife about this a little bit on the drive over here.
Okay,
because I said I just want to check my moral compass here. Because she finds out she's working for the bad guys because this organization in tracking tornadoes goes to these people after their houses have been destroyed and says, hey, we'd like to buy your land.
Yeah.
And
you've been through a lot.
You've been through a lot.
We'd like to give you some money.
Well, then I went, okay, well, is that entirely inherently bad? Because no, you should not prey on someone in the time of tragedy. Yeah. But at the same time, if my house were completely destroyed by a tornado and I'm like, what am I going to do with my life? And someone's like, here, let me give you $400,000. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. That's a good start.
Right. But it's easy to see that as corrupt, though. Right? Because it's like, little bit. Oh, that's a family-owned establishment that was just destroyed.
Yeah.
Oh, go try to lowball them.
And it is.
Right?
Did they say lowball?
No. Well, they said, oh, go try to get it.
Because my wife...
That was the intention.
My wife asked, she's like, did they give them a fair price? And I said...
Didn't really go into it.
I thought they said, well, what's it going for? Or what's the fair asking price?
Right.
But I still kind of went, timing, sure, a little off. But not like, oh, the bad guys. These horrible people that are buying land from people who probably don't want to live there anymore.
They're more prompt than FEMA.
Apparently. Yeah, they're right there on top of it. So yeah, that was one of the things where I went, I don't really know if it's a bad guy or not. Mm-hmm. Let me know, listener, if you think so.
Were you annoyed that main characters after the intro didn't die? Like, not annoyed, because I'm not saying like, oh man, but I wanted there to be, I just felt like everyone was invincible, and I was like, really, that's it? But also I didn't care about anyone enough.
No, and that's
to think that like I'd be sad.
Like when she first meets that first corporate team, and it's like, here's our team. There was a dude standing right at front at point.
Yeah.
Never heard a line from him after that.
True.
And most of the other team, it's the Superman guy got more lines.
Yeah, he did.
What's his name?
David Cornsweet.
David Cornsweet.
His name's like Eddie or something. Who even knows? There is a journalist in the movie that I think got probably a bigger arc in a different cut.
Ben.
Sure.
That's what it is.
But a journalist was studying, or he was doing a report on Glenn Miller and whatever his name is. And by the end, he was a coward, but then he turned into a hero by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Do you want to just jump right to the end of the movie?
Yeah, we can. I'm just trying to figure out where I know him from, and it was Downton Abbey. There. Now I know.
Oh, is that where he's from?
I was trying to figure out where I knew him from. Is Downton Abbey.
Okay. Yeah. So at the end of the movie, like, she wants to find a Category 1 tornado to throw up this powder in.
You just brought up something else.
Yeah.
In the original Twister, they talk in a kind of a geeky way, but then they explain it because Susan, I can't remember what the future wife, the fiance's name. I can't remember who it is. But they explain it to her so you don't feel so dumb.
Right.
This movie does not do that.
It doesn't.
This movie throws out terms, and they at one time
it also rushes them.
Oh yeah, they throw through like, this is an EF1 with a 4. It's got the wave on the drop with the
caps
carp,
are there, and
it's like, okay, with the shear, and I'm like, you're not making any sense.
Right.
Anyway, go on.
Yeah. So they want to destroy, at least like do a test on a, let's say Category 1 tornado, even though they never say that in the movie. And but of course, at the beginning and then the end of the movie, they have a Category 5, which is the biggest you can get, and it's gigantic. And
you can only measure them after destruction.
Yeah, I know. Even though it's like, that's pretty big.
They also spend most of this movie being like, oh, don't do that, and then never get like, they're like, oh, don't go under the overpass.
Right.
They never give you another alternative.
Right. I know, kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
But there's a firestorm. There's this tornado rips through a factory. It's full of flames, and it seems scary.
Refinery, I think.
Yeah, and there is just no drama to it really at all, because everyone's going to be okay. But then she does this thing where they change it up from the first movie. She is the Elsa of this movie, where they make it about the power of this character.
Yeah.
Right? It is not, he wants to be there with her in the thick of it, but he also is kind of like, he's like, oh no, where did she go? And then he and Anthony Ramos have to save people at this movie theater, which is being destroyed. And so she does it all on her own.
Yes, she drives out in a truck all on her own, releases the chemicals on her own.
Which seemed like, honestly, I was like, oh, that actually seemed pretty easy.
Yeah.
The risk wasn't all that great, other than the car kind of moving.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't want to do it.
Well, sure.
Also, that was funny that they were like, we got to track this tornado. No, we got to go help this town. And their help consists of running around saying, get in this building you already were all going into.
Yeah.
Also, when she said, no, we need to go, we can't do this. We have to go help this town that just got destroyed. It shows him literally giving like 2 photo albums to a woman and being like, we're done. True. I kept being like, you're not helping. The firefighters were there. The police were there. They're helping. Mm-hmm. Go do your job. And it would have been better. I'm just thinking.
But right as the movie theater full of 80 people is about to be destroyed, and people had already died in this. Yeah. All of a sudden, the tornado stops because the powder worked right at the last second. The diaper powder. So it's just like wasn't much, but I will say my favorite action scene is one where it happened so quick. They were like at a baseball game and a date in the middle of the movie. Yeah. And all of a sudden they're in a hotel and there's this bickering couple. It's like, we want an extra night stay. And then all of a sudden a tornado comes real quick. And I'm like, wait, did I miss something? But the tornado action, you don't see the tornado much, but it's actually kind of cool because these characters they just met who probably have more depth than the side characters we were introduced to earlier.
On the teams, yeah.
Start getting sucked up one by one. And there's one scene where, and this is Parents Guide, where a truck rolls and hits a post and you see blood squirt up out of the truck. And I was like, wow.
I didn't see that.
It was kind of like a Mortal Kombat fatality real quick.
I didn't
like
see
someone
that.
got impaled and I was like, wow. That was pretty cool. That was pretty dramatic. So it was kind of thrilling for that one scene. But I was pretty pleased, honestly, with the amount of tornadoes they had. It seemed impractical. But they do explain in the movie, hey, this season is worse than any other. We're having so many tornadoes this year.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, keep going.
See, and I feel like they could have maybe cut out 20
you think so?
minutes or so.
Okay.
Like, this is an hour
to establish more of a relationship or just cut out that of the movie.
I feel like this movie is an hour and 22 minutes, and I kept being like,
hour and 42 minutes?
22.
Is that short?
It's Yeah, it felt long. Like I think this is a 90-minute movie to me.
Oh, it should have been. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry. But because, like I said, it was like, science. No, but feelings. Yes, feelings, gut. And then they do that. And they do it again and again and again. And every time it's like, okay, just trust her.
Well, to the point where there's not much resolution at the end because the relationship is not developed by the end. And maybe that was purposeful. Once again, kind of an Elsa.
Destroy an airport parking lot.
Yeah.
So,
why?
I don't.
Why?
That was all dumb.
But it was kind of an Elsa story where it's like, hey, if you feel it, chase it. And so he decides he needs to chase love and keep her in Oklahoma with family, I guess.
But like we said, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, like, totally passable.
We're kind of like bashing on it, but at the same time,
it's what we do with every spoiler section, by the way.
We kind of just going to rant a bit for it. But talk about the positives. It did put some fear in me of like, I never want to run into a tornado. Even though I know those characters are going to be fine, I was kind of like, wow, those really are powerful. Like you get a sense of how devastating these can be. Mm-hmm. And
like how crazy they exist.
Maybe, they kind of do it in the original Twister, but they really do lean into the devastation afterwards and say, hey, here's what's left behind.
Right.
These things happen. And that was a little terrifying.
It made me want to introduce my daughters to disaster movies because it's a genre I haven't even thought about introducing them to.
Oh.
And I'm like, I wonder if I haven't watched the original Twister, and then maybe this one, maybe they'll like it just as much because they don't have the nostalgia on.
They could.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I thought it was fine, just forgettable.
Yeah, and I don't, like I said, I didn't want to take away from the original, and it doesn't. It's kind of its own thing, and it doesn't feel, it's not doing nostalgia there. It's not trying to throw back to that.
Right. No cows flying through the air, by the way.
No characters from the original, just the Dorothy machine in passing, they talk about it.
Right.
Overall, if you like the original Twister, you're probably going to like this one fine too, because it doesn't take anything away from the original one. So, there you go. Any other items to say about the movie?
That's it. If you end up seeing this movie, let us know what you think on our social media.
Yeah, don't spoil it, though, until after Zack has seen it, at least. This has been Bacon Sale.
Now let's kiss.
No thanks, Zach.